How's it going, Mail Gang? Boaz here, and today we're going to be taking a look at, personally for me, a very long-awaited release from KWA. Like I mentioned earlier, that KWA recently, they've really only been focusing on their AEG platform and their gas blowback rifle platform as well, both of which actually are pretty good, and I've been enjoying a lot of the stuff that they've been releasing. But one thing remained. Historically, KWA, they offered a full spectrum of airsoft replicas for players to enjoy. We're talking AEGs, gas blowback rifles, and they also had a bunch of airsoft replica gas blowback pistols to boot back in the day, and for their time were really, really good. They actually had a very wide selection of gas blowback airsoft pistols, but they haven't really updated it for many, many years. And here we are. KWA has finally updated and refreshed their ATP lineup for 2024, and I'm super excited to go over what's new about it. If you don't know what the ATP stands for, ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. It's basically the main fuel source of most cells when you undergo cellular respiration. But actually, in all seriousness, ATP stands for adaptive training pistol. So from the very get-go of the original ATP from KWA, some of you guys might have owned one in the past. I certainly still have two of them in my closet. They are specifically purpose-built to help law enforcement and military agencies across the world train for force-on-force application to better train their law enforcement officers and their soldiers. Because KWA has released the ATP originally to be a primary training tool for a lot of these more serious organizations out there in the world, we are getting the same exact thing for us to enjoy on the airsoft field. So just keep that in mind, that a lot of times KWA, their main focus is to help train law enforcement and military agencies. That's just the kind of pedigree that they have, and they are kind enough to pass that down to us for us to enjoy, and enjoy the same level of quality that a lot of these more serious guys are using to train out there on the field. In front of us here today is going to be the brand new ATP-GT. So the GT, I'm not sure exactly what it stands for. I'm pretty sure you could fill in the gaps. KWA themselves hasn't officially disclosed what the GT stands for, but as you can see, just looking at the replica here, it very much mimics a very common service handgun that you see out and about in the real world today. And of course, you get the standard one in black, and of course, you see some other color variations here in front of me today, but they're not available. They're not, unfortunately. So what you see here, this is what we call the Founders Edition that KWA has released with the black slide and the tan frame. And this is the K Customs line that they just recently launched in this full peanut butter FDE colorway as well. I don't know why they just set this just to limited release. Some of these colorways are really, really sick, and it really just sucks that KWA only released it directly for sale through their own website. Yeah, I just kind of wish I got my hands on them earlier, you know. But this is just something that KWA is experimenting with. They're trying to come out with custom colorways, add accessories, or have packages that have different aftermarket cosmetics already pre-installed from their K Custom line. So this is just something that they've been doing. But let us know in the comments what you guys think. KWA actually is actively looking for feedback to see how you guys feel about them releasing limited custom or special models of their regularly released airsoft replicas. Okay, all right, so like I said, this stuff, you're not gonna see any of this, okay? They sold all these out. You're never gonna see the airsoftgi.com because they're sold directly through KWA. So right here, front and center, we have the KWA ATP-GT. First of all, just like a lot of modern real-world firearms or handguns today, it is composed of a hybrid design. So you have a metal slide and barrel assembly, and then on the lower frame itself is going to be made out of a high-strength polymer. And feeling in the hands, it does feel very comparable to a lot of other high-end airsoft replica pistols out there that sport the same construction quality. So the metal slide feels nice and sturdy, and the polymer is nicely textured here on the grip panels. Looking at the top of the slide, you're getting your standard 3 white dot pistol style iron sight system. It definitely gets the job done and is very easy to acquire a sight picture with the 3 dot system. However, I kind of just wish that they went with a little bit something more fancy, maybe some like suppressor height sights or maybe a fiber optic. But as you can see here, as we talk more about the design of the KWA ATP-GT, you're gonna notice that a lot of the stuff is very bare bones, no frills, very utilitarian in nature. And I could totally understand where KWA is coming from, because like I mentioned earlier, this Airsoft replica pistol is designed specifically to cater to a lot of law enforcement and military organizations around the world to help their members train. And so I could totally understand why they decided to kind of tone back a lot of the styling and making it a little bit more minimalistic, because that's probably closer to what a lot of these people carry in real life, and it's probably going to help them take their training a little bit more seriously. If they came out with a ton of like bells and whistles, crazy ported slides, and all this other stuff, they probably wouldn't take the ATP-GT so seriously. But I will give them some credit because I think a lot of their design choices are pretty tastefully done. For example, the front and rear serrations on the slide are very nice. It gives a right amount of texture for you to get a really good grip when you're racking the slide back and forth, either from the front or the rear. And of course, you get a nicely anodized metal orange tip. I think that's really stylish and tastefully done from KWA. I mean, they've been doing this with their AEGs for a long time, and I'm glad that they're carrying it over to their gas blowback pistol series. Now, moving towards the rear of the slide, right in front of the rear sight, you're getting your optic mount. Now, this is cool because the optic mount can house a number of different micro red dot footprints, and I'm pretty sure that they've included a generous amount of different kinds of micro red dots that you can mount because, again, a lot of law enforcement and military organizations will have different standards for their micro red dots. So it's really cool to see. For us, the end user that primarily will use this to play Airsoft with, you can attach a variety of different micro red dots for you to use and enjoy. Moving down to the fire controls, it definitely feels very reminiscent of, let's say, like a Glock style fire control system. So you have an ambidextrous slide release, which is nice, and you get a very interesting looking takedown lever on the left-hand side of the Airsoft pistol, and you get your two, I guess, like double layered trigger safety to make sure that the replica won't go off accidentally. And one thing I really like, one detail I really love about the GT is the fact that next to the takedown levers on both sides, you get some really nice like square texturing to kind of guide your support hand with your thumb when you're gripping the Airsoft pistol. It just, I think that's a really nice little detail that they added. And on the bottom, instead of getting like, let's say, a proprietary rail system, you're getting a nice standardized 1913 Picatinny accessory mount to mount whatever lasers or flashlights that you want. And finally, you're getting an enlarged magazine release to make ejecting your Airsoft magazine really easy. And towards the very bottom of the grip, you're gonna notice, if you feel around for it, because this is how subtle they are with it, they do have a nice built-in flared mag well. So it's gonna make inserting your next magazine way faster, and it's very low-key, like you're not gonna see any aftermarket mag well, like a huge mouth opening here on the bottom of the grip. Very nice, very subtle, very understated, and I kind of like that. Now internally is where things get really interesting for the ATP-GT. Now this is gonna be using KWA's very brand new NS3 gas system. So for those of you guys who've been playing Airsoft for a long time, you'll know that KWA started out releasing their gas blowback pistols in the NS1 gas system, then they evolved to the NS2, and finally the NS3 is out. And there's a lot of really cool, interesting features that they've included for their brand new NS3 system. The biggest thing, in my opinion, is going to be the modular fire control unit. So I'm gonna go ahead and first disassemble the slide and the frame together like this. And then now with the frame, this is where things get really interesting. So if I can do this on camera for you real quick, yep, I could remove the takedown lever, and then from here, I can actually yank out the entire fire control unit in one piece. There we go. So you get this all-in-one fire control unit that can be transferred over to different things later down the road. So KWA has promised us that there is going to be a whole ecosystem within the ATP lineup to where they're eventually gonna release different frame options, different frame sizes, different slide options, things of that nature to truly customize the ATP-GT to your liking. So I think this is really cool, that the fact that you're seamlessly able to customize a lot of the stuff with very minimal effort. Going a modular system like this is kind of the way of the future for Airsoft, because if you guys have tinkered around or built custom high capos, let's say in the past before, there are a lot of really small parts that you need to keep track of and need to install or reinstall. And so it makes customizing it really frustrating sometimes, or just really time intensive. So I think this is probably one of the biggest things that KWA has done with their NS3 gas system. Okay, so now that I got the GT back together in one piece, we're gonna talk about the magazine itself. So the ATP-GT will be using their own magazine system designed in-house by KWA. I will say the NS3 gas system is phenomenally gas efficient. We were able to get roughly around 3 magazines worth of BBs with 1 fill of green gas, which I think not very many airsoft pistols can really reliably do that. Even with the optic attached actually on this thing, we're still able to get some really good gas efficiency numbers. Okay, so we just fired off 3 mags worth of BBs with 1 single fill of green gas with the GT. I'd say that's pretty impressive. Not very many airsoft gas blowback pistols can do that. And from here, there's actually still green gas left in the reservoir. Huh, there's still gas left in this thing, even though it didn't lock back. So with an airsoft pistol that has an optic mounted on it, 3 mags plus gas left over, it's pretty wild. Looking closer at the magazine, one cool thing that KWA has always done with their airsoft gas blowback pistols is that they have a locking magazine follower. So basically all you have to do is push the follower or pull it all the way down, and it's gonna just automatically lock into place at the very bottom. So this is really easy for you to load up BBs into your magazine without you having to manually hold down the follower while filling it up with BBs. You could just leave it in place, fill it up, and then once you're done, you could release it and the follower will feed the rest of your BBs through the magazine. Now, the second cool thing about the reason why the locking follower is so nice on this thing is that you can use this to dry fire. So if you're someone who likes to train firearms proficiency at home, I think this is a perfect way of doing so, that you don't even want to have to deal with any BBs. You can fill this guy up with green gas, and KWA has specifically designed this magazine to allow you to dry fire it at home to, again, build proficiency. So I think that's really cool. Now, the final thing that's really cool about the magazine and the NS3 system is that the KWA ATP-GT is compatible. It's backwards compatible with the original KWA ATP. So if you guys have a ton or spare KWA ATP magazines at home, you don't have to go out and buy a ton of new magazines. You can still use your existing ATP magazines. I know for me, I have about 20 of the old ATP magazines, so I'm just glad that they have some use after all these years. All right, well, the ATP-GT is pretty cool, so that's that. But I know some of you guys are here to look at this bad boy, this absolute beast of an airsoft pistol. This thing is the Carbine kit that is going to be released soon from KWA. So if you look closely here, this is actually sporting the same DNA as the GT. So remember how I told you earlier where you can take and remove the fire control unit? You can swap that over into the Carbine kit. So KWA is going to not only release this as its own standalone product, but they'll also be selling the Carbine kit as is, so that way you can take your existing ATP-GT and drop it into the Carbine kit, which is super dope. I mean, looking at this thing, it's everything I've wanted in an airsoft replica pistol Carbine kit. We're talking the mock integrated compensator, which looks, it just looks so killer. And then the grip module itself has a spare magazine holder with an ambidextrous mag release. So you could switch over and get your spare magazine from either side of the replica, no matter how you're holding it. And then if you get this thing in its complete form, you will also get an extended magazine, which is really cool. So you'll be able to swap over between your extendo mag, and then, you know, in a pinch, you can drop your little standard size magazine from the front and move it into the replica if you need to. And then you have your dedicated optics mount with Picatinny, so you can mount whatever small form factor red dot that you want. And then the rear, you also get some extra Picatinny space to mount like your MPX, MCX style stock. So this one is like a nice polymer skeleton stock, but the world is your oyster. You can get Picatinny to buffer tube adapters. You can get all sorts of different stock options here to make this guy look extra sick. Shooting the ATP-GT was a pretty pleasant experience. And honestly, I was pretty surprised at how snappy this guy was, considering the fact that we mounted a micro red dot to the rear. A lot of times with airsoft replica pistols, when you start mounting optics and stuff to the rear of the slide, usually you can expect the slide cycling to really start slowing down and you start losing your gas efficiency just because the slide is carrying more weight. And so eventually, you start to lose more gas power from cycling such a heavy slide, but not with the GT. Like I said before, we were able to easily get 3 mags out of 1 fill of green gas, even with the optic on. As far as range and accuracy goes, I'd say the base pistol itself is reasonably accurate, and it performs pretty much identically to a lot of the other higher quality airsoft pistols out there on the market. It'll go toe to toe with them, no problem. Now, let's talk about the carbine kit real quick. The carbine kit is so fun to shoot. Holy moly. Just the ability to get and upscale your small little airsoft gas pellet pistol into, like, what we say, like a primary role. I think that's super sick. And ergonomically, I think they really knocked it out of the park. It's so nice to hold in the hands. It just feels like you're wearing a glove. It just fits your hands so nice. And especially when you start mounting accessories to the lower rail here on the carbine kit, you get some really nice fast access to your flashlight or your laser, which is cool. And I just love the feeling of the slide kicking back and having all that supported by your shoulder from the stock. I think it's really cool. And the fact that you have a statically mounted red dot sight on the rear, you're able to stay on target. You don't have to worry about the dot bouncing around as you're trying to find it, because it's not mounted to the slide. But other than that, I'd say when it comes to the range and accuracy, it performs identically to the GT because the inner barrel length is about the same. I kind of wish KWA came out with a longer inner barrel for these guys, just because, hey, I mean, you have a carbine kit, you have this compensator, that's like unused barrel real estate in my opinion. So I think definitely this thing could have benefited from a longer inner barrel. And then finally, I would say one thing that I was really wishing KWA to do is to get this guy in full auto capability when you put it in the carbine kit. Because G&G has been doing it for the SMC9 and that thing is so fun to shoot in full auto. I can't imagine how much more fun it'll be to shoot the GT in full auto. So KWA, what's going on, man? Are you gonna release a full auto version or not? So as far as the KWA ATP-GT, the base airsoft pistol goes, I'd say it's pretty dang good. I can't really find too many things to knock it, aside from the fact that maybe the slide design, the frame design is a little bit more on the boring side, but again, there's a reason for that. This itself is supposed to be a training tool for a lot of the more serious professionals out there, and they're probably not gonna take too kindly to a lot of the really high speed, like slides and frame designs that we as airsofters tend to love. So I can't really ding it for that. But as far as the carbine kit goes, I think two of my biggest gripes is, number one, is the fact that the inner barrel is not any longer. I kind of wish that they just gave you that extra bump in muzzle velocity and long range accuracy. It's kind of a no-brainer to me. If you're running a larger sized airsoft replica, I will kind of expect to get more range and accuracy out of it. The second thing that really irks me about the carbine kit is the fact that there's no full auto. And I really hope that at some point in the near future, KWA will come out with a full auto version of the carbine kit. Because let's be honest, if you're running an extendo mag, or if you're running all extendo mags for this thing, and this thing is gonna be a primary, you're gonna wanna run it in full auto. And especially for those of you guys who, let's say, run a sniper or run like a long range GMR where you are not allowed to engage other players closer to 100 feet, let's say. And if you want to rely on this guy to give you that extra bit of close range firepower, I mean, come on, the full auto is a no-brainer. And there's plenty of other airsoft gas pellet pistols that already go full auto. So I hope at some point, again, KWA, please make it in full auto. So when it's all said and done, if you want to use the KWA ATP-GT as your sidearm platform of choice, right now at airsoftgi.com, it retails for $190. So make sure to take advantage of the Wombo combo for automatic free shipping and reward store credit. As far as the carbine kit goes though, they have not released this yet and they have not gotten back to us as what the final price would be. Now, take what I'm saying for a grain of salt, because this is kind of what I've been talking with KWA about, is the fact that when they were talking about releasing just the carbine kit without the inner workings of the GT, so just the platform to drop in your GT into, they're saying that the carbine kit itself was gonna retail for about $100. Again, the price might change, but that was just what figure that they threw at me when I was having a conversation with them. But I would probably expect, I wouldn't be surprised if the full carbine kit in and of itself will probably retail for around anywhere between $250 to $280. That's just my guess for the future, but only time will tell because KWA has yet to announce a price on this carbine kit. $190 squarely places the KWA ATP-GT definitely on the higher echelon of airsoft replica pistols. It's pretty up there when you think about just the sheer dollar amount you're getting for just an airsoft gas blowout pistol. But it's coming from KWA, so I'm not necessarily surprised. KWA is a very high-end brand and they cater a lot of their products to higher end airsofters, people that have been playing for a long time that want quality products. And of course, they're selling this primarily to law enforcement and military organizations around the world. So I'm not super surprised at how much this thing costs. But for around $190, I can definitely trust the ATP-GT to perform well for a long period of time. And the benefit that you get with something like this, like a training tool, is that it's supposed to be a no frills, no nonsense platform. So every time that you fill this bad boy up with green gas and load up with BBs, you can expect this thing to go off and do what it's supposed to do. And the fact that this is going to be part of a larger ecosystem in the future, I think that getting a KWA ATP-GT is a very good investment, especially if you want to continue to customize your platform without all the headache of sourcing parts that may or may not be compatible with it. And of course, we're gonna be talking about the Carbine kit because, man, I can't keep my hands off this thing just because of how freaking sick this thing not only looks, but how it performs. And I will say it is really promising to see KWA do this, because from the very beginning, they were promising a larger ecosystem for this little guy right here. And the first thing that they're coming out with for the ecosystem is a Carbine kit. So I can only imagine what other really cool things that they have cooking up behind closed doors. And the fact that KWA is coming out with a modular system similar to that of, let's say, like the SIG Air M17, I think that's really promising for the future of airsoft gas blood pistols. And from what we said in previous videos, we really think that's going to be the future for a lot of airsoft platforms out there, is that we're going to try to move more towards a modular system where it's going to be a lot easier to customize and eventually upgrade. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and checking out our overview of the brand new KWA ATP-GT series, and of course the up and coming Carbine kit. Like I said before, the ATP-GT itself is available right now at airsoftgi.com, and we are holding our breath. We are hoping and praying that KWA will be releasing the Carbine kit soon, because I will be the first in line to get this bad boy. If this thing is, I can't. I just wish it went full auto, okay? It would be like the perfect Carbine kit if it did, but even in semi, this thing is super dope to shoot. But let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think KWA did a really good thing with creating a modular system like the NS3 gas system? And of course, for those of you guys who are hyper aware of what KWA is planning to release, they're going to release the ATP-Z, which is supposed to be like their analog of, let's say, like the M17, and they're going to be bringing that to market in the near future as well. So you can expect to see some coverage from us here at Airsoft GI to see how well that thing shoots and performs. But if you guys like what you're seeing, please make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe, and ring that bell icon to get notified of every time we upload a new video. And if you want to support us directly, if you like the content that we're doing, the best way to support us is by going to airsoftgi.com for all your airsoft needs, including the brand new KWA ATP-GT and all the brand new KWA releases coming out this year. But other than that, my name is Boaz, and we'll catch you next time, Mayo Gang.